sense of the sub-region into the minds of students, so that at that early stages, they would know that they owe some kind of allegiance to the sub-region based on the education that will be given to them. And that citizenship education will cut across, goes down to the family level, to the religious level, to the political level, to, socio-cultural levels, etc., etc.
Right. In these subjects that you've mentioned, local language is missing. And I'm mentioning this because there is this understanding that children learn better in their local or mother tongues, in other words, their first language. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the mother tongue is very good. But if you ask me, I'll tell you that, throughout the education that I've had, and if I talk about my education, which usually I don't want to talk about it, but for the context in which we've placed it, I have to talk about it. It cuts across law, it cuts across education, management, marketing, IT, etc., etc. I'm talking about having professional qualifications in all these subjects that I've mentioned. I can tell you that the mother tongue, the use of the mother tongue, is effective in religion. The use of the mother tongue is effective in religion. And to say that we should use mother tongue as an instructional language in school, I do not support that assertion. One, because the widely spoken mother tongue in Ghana is the Akan language. Okay. And how many vocabularies do we have in Akan language? And I'm talking about published vocabulary. They are between 8,000 and 10,000. So that if you come to words like tetrabyte, microchips, words that dictate the language of the world, how do you translate them in the mother tongue? And not too long ago, the presidential petition that we saw in the election before the last one, you realize that mother tongue speaking FM stations had problems with the Supreme Court because of the attempt to interpret what was going on in the court. And the lawyers and the judges had a problem with it because in their interpretation, they were given a different understanding to what really happens in court. So they had to stop them. Okay, so that the extent to which we will say that let's use our mother tongue as an instructional language in school would then mean that we are the originators of those things that we put the mother tongue to. Again, if you mention a word like kwashiorkor, which is a Ghana word for malnutrition for a child, because the definition of the word or the description of the word came from Ghana, we're able to put a name to it. So whatever you are able to invent or come up with, you put a name to it. And until we get to that level, I think that we are short in our vocabulary, for which reason using it as an instructional language in school will limit the children greatly than doing them any good. So I do not support that assertion at all.
Let's engage on this. And my first observation is you are talking of sophisticated, words in various languages that maybe our languages do not have at this time.
Yeah.
Every language started at a certain point without some vocabulary. English, as we speak, has Latin.
Yeah.
It has Greek. It has French.
Yeah.
So we are all learning and guiding us. In fact, even English language as spoken today, if Shakespeare were to be alive, he will be amazed.
Yeah.
And so as if you take, say, the King James Version of the Bible, and look at how it was written, and the Bible of today in terms of translation and even interpretation.
Yeah.
Germany made it, using his own language. Chinese made it using their own language.
Yeah.
English made it using their own language.
Yeah.
Why can't we be allowed to also grow?
Yeah. Good. Let me start with your last comment. Let me start with your last comment, talking about the language used for the Bible.
Right.
And that's why I said earlier on in my submission that the mother tongue is very good for religious purposes. Because if you take the Ghana Bible, for instance, which was the first translation by the Basel missionary in somewhere, where do we call it, Abokobi, okay, where the first translation of the Bible was to the Ghana language before Akwapimtri and other languages. If you read the Ghana Bible, I mean, the understanding you get, it's so deep and it's so succinct that, I mean, it is not diluted at all with if you take the other versions of it. So I maintain that position. Secondly, the other languages which you said were there long before, and now before even the English language took over, we call them the Aramaic language. You talk of Greek, you talk about Hebrew, you talk about those languages. I mean, where are they now? Those languages are in a way become extinct. So that in a statement once in a while, you would mention one or two of them, and even Latin that was used so much in law, in legal studies. Now, I mean, you barely find lawyers who indulge in Latinity. You get it. So that even that it's also gone. Okay. So they've all gone with the time. Okay. So that if we want to push our language, we shall be so happy. Why not? If we want to push our language, it is good for us. But the question again is, which language is it? Are we going to teach the various languages in the various regions? Or are we going to maintain one language across board? Okay, because again, studies have shown that when the GES had attempted to do that in time past, there were some of the language that they could not find teachers to teach in that language. So that if that is what we want to do, then we have to go back to the drawing board and have a whole strategic plan as to how to teach people, okay, in the mother tongue, which becomes instructional language for the teaching of mathematics, English, science, and what have you. But until we do that, then we're going to start with an initial difficulty. And anything that starts with a great difficulty, you will know that its future will be challenged. But other than that, on the face of it, why not? I like it. Ooh, I mean, our language is the sweetest things to our ear.
I wish I had Ngugi wa Thiong'o here. Okay.
And don't forget it. Yes. Don't forget all those great scholars.
Yeah.
All those great scholars like J.B. Dankwa.
Right.
I mean, he was very solid in his mother tongue. Kwame Nkrumah was very solid. My own uncle, Dr. Josiah, very solid in the Ghana language, you know. Right. So that it's a blend. Okay, it's a blend. So when we show scholarship in the use of the English language, then we must also acknowledge the mother tongue.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Nii Armah Addy. We appreciate it. Have the best of the evening, sir.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the program.
Okay.